Hey, hello, and welcome everybody on Facebook and YouTube. This is episode number 30, and it's Tuesday, January 12th at 5 p.m. Pacific here in Las Vegas. And today I have my special guest on is Omar Baez. He's down in Florida, I believe, and we're having internet problems here. His connection or my connection or something. So anybody watching in chat, please let me know if you can hear us okay, and we're going to try to figure this out. But let me pull him in right now. Hey, Omar, how you doing?
I'm doing okay, Jerry. Now everything is coming through clear now.
Okay, good, good. I
Yeah,
hope we fixed it. If not,
yeah.
we'll hold up cue cards or something.
Exactly.
Yeah, let me say hi to a few people in chat. TK's 3D Prints, hello, how you doing? Andrew hello. Yeah, TK says you can hear us okay. Yeah, and like I say, we're streaming on Facebook group, Facebook page, and here on YouTube. So yeah, how's it going? How you been? Thank you very much for coming on.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for the invite, and it's been going pretty good. How about yourself?
Oh, yeah, done pretty good. Just working on this and that, different projects. And you've had some really amazing work, stuff you've been working on online, and your paint skills are phenomenal. I mean, I paint okay. You're awesome. You're so much, more
Wow.
advanced than I am, but I don't practice so much. You do
Uh,
great work. Awesome
uh,
work.
Thank you. I appreciate the compliment. It's just years of practice. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's I mean, I can draw pretty good. I've been drawing since I can remember. So that might have a little bit of a hand in it as far as being able to paint pretty decently. But even my flesh tones, I'm still working on that. My flesh tones are really weak as far as getting it very realistic.
Yeah.
I'm great with this, making colors vibrant and the shading and stuff like that. But as far as like the face, I'm still working on that.
Yeah. I'm not good with flesh tones, and eyes are impossible. So,
Hey,
yeah.
hey there, bud.
Yeah. Eyes are very hard to do.
Ac-
Um,
Actually, there's just a pretty easy trick with the eyes, which I saw this guy on YouTube, and I'm trying to remember what his name was. But it's just like you lay down a black dot, then the color of the eye, then another black dot on the inside, then a smaller white dot, and that gives you a thick eye right off of there. And then what you do is people have a tendency to put like a solid white for the eye, for the rest of the eye. Nobody's eye is solid white, so you always want to add just a little bit of tan and just a little bit of red.
uh-huh.
And then once all that dries, and you put down a layer of gloss on top of it, and it gives you a good effect for the eye.
Okay, yeah, I've always tried to put down white, and then I'll try to do the color, and I'll try to do the black dot, and then in between, I would do a matte clear gloss, so that if I screw up, I can wipe it off, and I don't wipe off every layer. Because I know when a lot of people paint, they'll paint their multiple layers, and if they make a mistake and they go to wipe it off, you're going to wipe through all those layers and trash your model in that area. So I think before you go to the
Mhm.
next color, you should do a matte finish or a clear coat. The man on
Yeah,
YouTube, he's got a huge channel, Hispanic man, what's his name, Raphael.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he does a lot of custom work. He'll take awesome looking models and make them look better.
Yeah, he uses silly putty for a lot of his masking.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, oop, he froze.
Both in English and
Okay.
Spanish.
All right. I think it's Raphael Roberto or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he froze for just a minute, but that's okay. I do that once in a while too. Astro Printer. Hey, what's going on, Astro Printer? Let's see what flesh tones always seem to be hard to do. I use paint, Dungeon Dragon Minis, really a pain. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of one reason why I paint. When I do paint, I paint bigger models. They're easy for me to paint than little tiny things. But because I've ran out of room, I should have done minis a long time ago. I never should have got into, hey, I can make that 250%. Look, everybody.
Actually, I came across your YouTube channel. I had just gotten my first 3D printer, and I saw you. You were showcasing some Sanic statues, and I was like, "Oh my god, those things are huge!"
Yeah.
And I mean, yours was like close to like 22, 24 inches. You were printing them so big, but I thought I could do the same, but my FDM printing skills weren't up to the task. So
Yeah. When I first got into it like 4 years ago, I seen a bunch of stuff that Kevin Sharp in the UK was doing of Sanics. And then I got interested. He typically went 200 to 250, and I was doing everything about 150 usually. And then occasionally, I'm not sure if it was Sanics or other modelers. This model might be 100% and be that tall. The next model they do 100% might be that tall. They're not uniformly the same. So it's hard for you to try to size them up and make a match like a set until
yeah,
the designers start making everything. Everything they design is like 10 inches and make everything that big. That way, when we size up or down, they all look the same. So,
Exactly. So they're all in scale to each other. Yep. Yeah. The
um,
very first printer I ever did was Magneto from Sanex. That was the very first thing on my FDM printer.
yeah, I've done Magneto in the what's it called? Well, I've done the head that's on the bust. I've never painted it, and then I've done the diorama, and I've never painted it. Once again, like I said, my wife says you don't paint enough. I don't. I print, show off the pictures. Then I see something else, I gotta have it, and then I print something else, and that's why I got so many things that aren't painted. So, and then
Yeah.
when I was painting, a lot of times I'd speed paint, trying to get pictures posted, wasn't taking my time, and I lost a lot of quality, and things like that.
Yeah. I mean,
But
I went from hoarding before getting into 3D printing. I was building like the regular plastic model kits, a lot of cars, tanks, sci-fi, and I have way too many. Like I'm a hoarder with that. I'm trying to sell those, but now same thing with you. I'll see a design. I need to print it. I need to print this. I need to print that. And I'm putting a moratorium on printing right now for a month. I am not going to print anything, but I've got like 30 resin prints that I just need to print. I need to paint. I need to finish and paint.
yeah,
Because it's just going to keep. I'll be hoarding that. I went from hoarding model kits, now I'm hoarding 3D prints.
yeah. Did you recently have a building in your backyard built just for your hobby room?
Yeah. We had to. My folks were getting up there in age, so that we were having to move them back in with us. And the room that I was using was like a hobby in an office. And uh, my wife, we actually, the first thing we did, we built an addition to the house. We took half the lanai so she could use it for her hobby craft room. But she ended up losing her hobby craft room. But then we built the space for her. And unfortunately, my father passed away, but my mother still ended up moving in with us. And so she had the back bedroom, which was my wife's former craft room, and then the front bedroom, we were going to use it as like a media room for my dad to sit there and listen to records. And we decided to just keep it that way.
Yeah.
So then in the backyard, we have a huge backyard. So it was like, oh, you know what? Let me just build a space back there. And it's 12 feet by 16 feet. And I found an excellent contractor, the guy who actually did the addition to the house, ended up building this. And he did it super fast, did a great job. And now it's nice to have, I have multiple stations for everything. I have, for finishing. I have a ton of storage. I have for my airbrush. I have for cleaning, for the actual resin printers. So it's nice to have it all in order.
What got you interested into 3D printing, and about when did all this happen?
It happened. I was doing an install. Well, the company I work for, just to give everybody a background, I work for a company called Inks International, which is INX. And what we do is we make ink for the sign industry. And a lot of different types of ink. We have an ink type that's called solvent, and then we also have an ink type that's called UV.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a lot of prior experience and knowledge as far as the UV industry, as far as curing technology and what goes into making UV ink before I even saw a 3D printer. The very first 3D printer I saw was FDM technology. And I saw that at a company I was going. They had bought a printer and they were wanting to use our ink, and I saw it in action. I can't exactly remember what printer it was, but I thought that was amazing. I was like, wow, they're building this thing a layer at a time. At that time, though, 3D printers were astronomically expensive. So I was like, oh, that's a little too rich for my blood. So with time, the prices dropped. And then it was actually it was Maker's Muse, his YouTube channel. I came across it, and I was like, he was talking about the dropping prices of 3D printers.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw your channel where you were. My thing has always been comic books. I've always been a comic book collector in sci-fi. So I had no idea that existed, where people were actually designing files and you could print them.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw your prints, and I was blown away. I'm like, I have to do this. I have to get it. So the very first printer I got was an Atom Lab, with a gantry, which is basically a clone of a CR10.
Okay.
And that's where I cut my teeth with 3D printing, and a lot of work, a lot of calibration involved. I was able to get some good prints off of it.
Hey, Debbie.
Oh, that's my wife. So I was able to get a good number of decent prints off of that printer. And then the next two printers I got were two Ender 3s, and those were even better. the smaller scale, because the Atom Lab gantry, the dimensions on it, if I remember correctly, were was it 215? Was it 315 by 315 by 415? And then the CR on the Ender 3s were a little bit smaller, but the Ender 3s were a little bit tighter in quality. They gave me some better prints. And then again, this on YouTube, looking at all sorts of tips for 3D printing. Again, it was Angus with Maker's Muse. He had done a video for resin printing, and I thought, ooh, that looks really good. That quality looks really, really good. And Uncle Jesse as well, his YouTube channel, he had started looking at resin printers. Again, the prices were a little bit high, and as soon as it started to come down, the very first resin printer I got was an Anycubic Photon, and then the next one I got was a Photon S, and I was hearing about they had much larger resin printers. I loved my Anycubic, my Photons, but the build volume was very small. And I wanted to start printing this a little bit bigger, like, matching out like around 12 inches high.
Yeah.
And but the Peopoly and the Frozen transforms were, just a little bit up there in price range. And then I ended up getting the EPAX X10, and that's the biggest printer I have. It's right there, that one, and it's. Yep, it's been a great printer. The only time I've had to replace the screens is a user error, not some pieces, some supports coming loose and not checking. And the next time I went to print, when the build plate came down, it crunched on the screen. So taught me a very valuable lesson to always check my resin vat between every single print.
I've crunched parts twice and ripped my FEP, and the motor's grinding, the stepper motor, but it hasn't broke my screen yet.
Ooh, you got lucky.
Yeah, that's because I failed to check. And on one of the prints, I could see that I lost something, like a headlight on Speed Buggy, and I knew that it was in the vat, and I forgot to check. But I always run my spatula through, and I check it real good, and then you're usually good to go. So I rarely ever change my vat unless I need to. I just keep adding to it and keep going.
Same thing here. I have two vats. One is for clear, and then one is for regular resin, because I've been getting a lot into doing a lot of clear parts for lighting. So I switch it out from time to time depending upon what I'm printing. And what I also do is every couple of days, because I actually did have to change the screen one time because some pixels started going dead on my screen.
You're getting holes in your print?
Yeah. And I found out after a very long print and I had to trash it, there was just no way to salvage it. And another valuable lesson. So what I do is the test that the screen gives you, it's just like a rectangular bar. There's nothing in the middle. But I send a full size. I put a full size square on my USB drive so that I test that, and it acts like it's printing. It comes down, and I make sure that the whole screen is lighting up.
Okay.
And that verifies that all the pixels are firing fine, and then stop it, cancel that job, then put the resin vat back in, set it up for my real job, and then I'm good to go.
Well, I got some of your pictures here. I'm going to show them. You can tell us a little bit about them. This first one here, I think this is okay.
Yep, that was Batman, designed by Spicer McLeroy. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. It was he had it available for a limited time. He let me do the printing on that. I mean, that was a blast to print. It was a great design. Had some fun with the paint job on it. Went a little bit in a different direction for his suit, making it all black and just putting like a gold outline around the bat symbol on his chest. So that was a lot of fun.
And that is, you hollow that out, I believe, right, to save on resin?
Oh yeah, I always hollow out. If I can, sometimes with the heads and the hands, I don't, because the finger, exactly, they're too small to hollow out. If I need some extra support on the base, I'll hollow out the base still, but the thickness of the walls, I'll increase it to just give it a little bit more rigidity. So this way, with some of the designs, if you don't have a good solid base, it might tip over, especially if they're like in some kind of an action or dynamic pose. So I actually increased the wall thickness on my base just to give it a little more heft. I could either do that, or I could add some weights on the inside.
When I hollow, I typically make my prints 2 millimeters thick. How about you?
Same thing. Same thing. My clear with the clear resin though, I try to go to like the lowest I've gone is 1.25.
Okay. And
And
use Cheetah Box?
I'm sorry.
Slicer Cheetah Box?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
I don't do any. I know a lot of people use Pusha to set up the files and then bring it into Cheetah Box. I just straight up Cheetah Box. I just I come inside there, um, hollow it out, put my drain hose, do my supports. Um, I'll first do auto, and then I'll check it out. And so, because auto doesn't always catch everything, make sure there's any islands like that, then do any kind of manual edits that I might need.
I've hollowed after supports, but what's bad about that, you don't get any internal supports, even though it's hollow. But if there's any area that would have required a support on the inside, you're going to kill your print. It's not going to print right.
Yeah. I had a failure on my e-packs like a month ago, and it was just again user error. I hadn't oiled the rails in quite some time, and I was having a failure at the same point in the build every single time. And some people were seeing the inside of my hollow prints and all that. They were like, "Oh my God, it's a ton of supports." I'm like, "Well, if you don't have supports on the inside, you're gonna have some problems."
Yeah.
So this was Green Lantern. This was designed by Jody Reimers. He's on Facebook. He does a lot of cool
Jody
designs.
Reimer.
Yeah.
He done a really good job on that. Yeah, Jody works for the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, he does?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Yep. I'm not sure what he does for him, but he does work for the Dallas Cowboys.
He's got an excellent collection of Christmas sweaters. Were you seeing that? Like every single day before Christmas, he had a different sweater. No, it's awesome.
I didn't see that.
This was Superman, again, by Spicer, another cool design of his. I went with like an all-black variant on the suit.
And all these are resin printed, none are FDM?
Yeah, all these that you've been showing so far have all been resin printed.
I hate capes. On FDM, when I do capes, I hate capes. They're such a pain to print and glue together, and they're just a pain in the butt. And
yeah.
If the designer didn't design them right, they're not paper thin. There's some people that accidentally make capes too thick so that when you size up the model, they get bigger and bigger and bigger.
And then what they do is they start pulling off the center of gravity on a design, and then they end up pulling it back or pulling it forward.
And then there's been a lot of prints out there people have done, let's say, where the person in the action figure is jumping and there's 1 foot. Now, when you print that small, no big deal. But if you take the print real big, that's too much weight on 1 foot. And you got to put some kind of a support or a metal rod or a dowel or something inside of it. So you can't support all that weight since you increase the size.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, King Thor, another one by Spicer. This one was available, I believe it's available on Gambody.
Hey, Henry.
Hey there, Henry.
Yeah, I'm trying to catch all the comments here that I can. If I miss somebody's comment, I appreciate it.
TK's 3D prints. Estimates can alter the setting how to make the hollow. You don't need internal support to use more resin. And this was Sinestro. Oh my God, I'm forgetting the guy's name. But he's just a huge Sinestro fan. He's on Facebook. If you just type in Sinestro STL, you will see this design pop up.
I haven't seen that before. I'm not familiar with that character.
He's DC Comics. He was the villain for Green Lantern.
Okay.
And he was in the Green Lantern Corps, and he was a good guy. But then he went bad, and he's got a yellow ring instead of a green ring. And I wanted to light up that energy ribbon, so that was my first time printing with clear resin. And it came out pretty decently.
That is awesome.
This has been my best one to date, my best print so far. And this was Gabriel Risco Yanez. His design skills are just insane. And it's him and this Ricky Lucky. They have a whole project. It's like going to be an X-Men diorama. It's going to be 13 characters all combined. And it's going to be a huge diorama. Because all these, this figure was at 1/6 scale. And
which is about how many inches? 10, 12 inches?
No, 12 and a half.
Okay. And why I know what my process is for printing and painting, resin printing, but what do? You slice your model, you print it hollow. How do you go about cleaning out your models? And then when you move on to priming, what kind of how do you prime them? If you could just
Okay,
talk about that a
well,
little bit.
I typically, I'll first determine if I'm gonna what scale I'm gonna print it at. If I'm gonna enlarge it, or if I actually some of these files I have to reduce them, as some design a quarter scale, and my printer, with my e-packs, I can't do that. I can't do quarter scale, so I'll determine whether I have to increase it in size or shrink it. And after hollowing it out and doing all the supports and printing it, then you go on to cleaning the print. And I used to use the Elegoo water washable. I still do. Um, but what I found is kind of a hit or miss with that. I thought I had figured out the solution was curing the inside of it as well as the outside. But even over time, I'm finding that some prints that I haven't gotten to go finish and paint, I actually pulled them out of the bin and they've cracked.
Did you see Kevin Sharp's Wonder Woman that he painted? It looked beautiful, and it's in pieces. It looks like he dropped it and it broke. And he was using some kind of water washable resin, and it just shattered on him.
I think that what's happening with the water washable resin, and I actually talked with one of the chemists at the company that I work with about this, that the resin is actually retaining the moisture inside the resin. That even though it's cured, you still have a bunch of molecules with the photo initiators and the monomers and all the things that go into making a resin fluid, and you still have some kind of spacing in there. And I think it's retaining the water, and over time, it's ejecting that water, and that's what's causing it to contract and crack. So, yeah, I've started of late. I'm using the e-packs hard resin, and in combination with the e-packs printer, it's just giving me some phenomenal prints. I didn't have to figure out any settings. I didn't have, I used the settings right from the website, and the very first thing I sent over just looked. I was like, okay, easy. So
using a water washable resin, you don't go through you don't clean with IPA?
Nope, just water.
And then you let it completely dry before you cure it, and you take off your supports before you cure it, right?
Yeah, what I do with the water washable resin, I have an ultrasound cleaner, and I had the water in it. I would take the print off the printer, take it off the build plate, put it in the ultrasound cleaner. I would clean it. I would zap it for at least 480 seconds. 400. It comes out to like 4.5 minutes, and from there, I had a tub of warm water that I would rinse it off in. Of course, wearing gloves, I would rinse it off in one tub. Remove it. Do any kind of I found that it was easier to remove all the nibs and all the imperfections that are associated when we remove the supports. Is using like a hobby knife and also using a hobby clipper, which try to clean up the model as much as possible. Then dunk it in the second vat with the water. Finish cleaning it off. I would let it dry, and then before going to cure, I actually got a dental UV curing light, and it has like a thin attachment. I would cure the inside of the model, and then I would cure the outside of it. And I made my own curing oven, so to speak. It's just a large plastic bin. I got a UV curing light from Amazon, attached it to the lid. It's big enough for all my big prints or multiple small pieces. And what I do is I cure it 20 minutes to a side.
Yeah, TK does a lot of minis, and he's talking about that he still cleans with IPA afterwards, so it's not tacky.
Yeah. The water washable resin, I mean, the best thing is just, like I said, I use the ultrasound, and I never found it to be tacky afterwards. But what I don't like is that it's been three prints now that I went back to check on. I said, okay, I'm going to start working on this one next. Completely ruined.
Wow.
Yeah, and one was another design by Gabriel Riscoyanes with the Super Scroll. And the clear resin pieces are okay, but all the water washable parts, every single one of them cracked.
Let me go on to some more pictures here.
Silver Surfer. Yeah, Meg Silver Surfer. That guy is...
That's awesome work.
Oh, yeah. I love the Silver Surfer. He had done a Silver Surfer before, and that one was really good too, but this one was really... I liked it. It was very dynamic. And as far as the colors... at this point in time, I was using all clad inks, which is you want to, after your print is cured, sand it down, or you can. You don't want to lose any details if you can't, if it can be helped.
Hmm.
Um, and then I apply this a basic old a plain primer. I use rattle can primer. Anything you find at the Home Depot, super cheap.
Unless
Uh,
it's really cold out, then you'll probably use airbrush primer, right?
yeah,
If you
well,
have to.
I used to. Yeah, I used to do all my painting in a lanai before, but now that I have this hobby room, I can temperature control it. So it's I always keep it at 72 degrees all
Okay.
the time. So I can print, if it's 48 degrees outside, I can still paint.
You're in Florida, right?
Yeah, yeah. It gets I'm in Naples, Florida, and it gets, I'd say, cold maybe a whopping month out of the year. And like today, I'm wearing shorts, and I think tomorrow it's supposed to get cold again. So I'll be wearing. It's psychotic weather here in South Florida.
Hey, Betty Boop. That's my wife in the other room.
Hello. Yeah. So all right. So going back to finishing on the print, after sanding it, I prime it, and then with the when you want to get like a metallic finish, what I have a tendency to do is either using all clad or using Createx auto air colors. It's the same process, same method. Is after on top of the primer, you apply a black base, then you apply a chrome on top of that. And the trick is, if you want the chrome to be very metallic, you got to start off and apply very little chrome. Do it in layers. If you blast it on, it's gonna look like the same as the acrylic chrome that you're gonna look. It's gonna look shiny, but it'll be more of a matte finish.
Yeah, like a silver.
Yeah. So what you want to do is you want to go in light layers until you get that chrome finish that you want, which very reflective. And then from there, if you want to make it a colored metallic, that's when you start applying the colors on top of the chrome, which is what I did here. The Silver Surfer, the body was just primer, gloss black, and then the chrome. But then the rest of the base was different types of colors that I used on top of the gloss black, the chrome, and then whatever kind of candy color I used on top of that.
Oh
Which I
wow, yeah. I was wondering how you did that effect. Okay, that makes sense. So
yeah,
that's like
and
it's like a candy yellow that you could paint on right over primer, but since you put it over chrome, it's making it pop like that.
it gives you like a very it gives you a feel of energy.
All right, that's very
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
And this is familiar from 3D Model Crowdfund.
yeah. Excellent design, and just obviously super popular show. And this one was actually a combination. I went back and I did the base out of FDM, and the figure was all resin. The cape is actual fabric.
Mm-hmm.
The cape that came with the design was okay, but it kind of looked too comic booky.
Yeah.
So I wanted something because the figure looks so realistic. I wanted it to be everything to look just as realistic as possible. So I actually I went with my wife to I think it was Joanne's that we went to, where I got the fabric.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and tried to find like a fabric that matched it and it had like a small enough texture that would look to scale with the figure. Found it and actually glued it around the piece that I printed for the neck where it had all the wrinkles and just draped it in the right way and came out pretty decent. But yeah, sci-fi fantasy. That's Kenny Conklin. He has a whole modeling community, and he actually has a section for 3D printers in there as well. And it's a great community. It's for all sorts of hobby model builders, whether it's sci-fi, car, tank, figure. And like I said, now he's got a section for 3D printing there, and it's a good community for everyone to join. It's Hobby Link International, and must put a shirt from Sci-Fi Fantasy.
Yeah, the biggest problem I have with painting a model like this is it's because the designer didn't make it exactly like in the movie. Everything's changed a little here and there. It's hard to find the exact pictures because I Google pictures and then I try to find multiple pictures. I print them out or I'll keep them on the screen and try to copy it, but you never can find exactly. They're always changed. It's hard to match things. And then I
Yeah,
understand base on mine like this.
yeah. Well, what I try to do is, like you said, it's always hard to find, and designers will get close, but they're not. It's not an exact match to what was on the show. This was pretty darn close,
Uh-huh.
really close. The only difference was the left knee pad was different on the show, and I think also the right knee pad. The knee pads were off, but
Yeah.
I just tried looking at the whole figure. I was like, well, you know what, this would kind of look good with that, and that would fit there.
What
So,
scale? What is that? About 150% or 200%?
yeah, this was 175%. This
Okay.
guy was 13 inches.
Okay. Very nice.
Yeah.
And that's
Thank
all resin printed, including the base, or is that FDM?
No, the figure was resin printed. Rifle was resin printed. The stormtrooper head was resin printed. The spike was resin printed, but the large skull, I'm trying to remember what the name of that creature is, and then the wood base and the round base, that was all FDM.
Okay.
That's the last thing I printed with my FDM printers, and now they're sitting in the garage for things.
How many question I forgot to ask you. How many printers do you think you've owned, and do you have a favorite?
I've owned now 6 printers, 3 FDM, 3 resin. My favorite is my EPAX, my EPAX X10. Because of the size, the quality. It's not the new mono screens coming out now in the 4K, but I still get great prints off of it. The Anacubic is as well my Photon S. I love that thing. If it was just bigger, like if it was like I'm really leaning towards the Mono X, the Photon Mono X. I mean, the Saturn looks cool, and everyone's buying that. If you can find it on Amazon, it's always sold out. But the Mono X is, I believe, 250 millimeters in height, or 245, and the Saturn is 200, so it's a little bit taller.
When the Elegoo Mars first came out, and of course everybody was buying them on Amazon here in the U.S., I left the page open for 2.5 days, and about every 15 minutes, I'd go in my computer room, and I'd refresh it. And after 2 days, I finally got one. And I've had that for a little over a year now, I believe it was. And now I just ordered the Frozen Sonic Mighty 4K back in the beginning of December. So I remember messaging you on Facebook, getting your opinion on this or that. And I wound up going with the Frozen Sonic Mighty 4K. So hopefully I'll get it within the next month, I hope. They're slowly shipping out. And when I get it, I'll do some videos on it and, go from there. But yeah, I can't afford $2,000 or $3,000 for a giant resin printer. But, the Elegoo Mars is cool, but I need something just a little bit bigger so I don't have to print in multiple pieces or cut a model in NetFab or something to make it fit. And hopefully I'll be happy with it.
Yeah. See, the EPAX X10, when it came out, I got it when it came out, and it was $1,200. But that build platform right now is just slightly bigger than the Saturn, and the Saturn is like not even half the cost.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing with the Mono X, and same thing with the EPAX E10. The only thing, the major difference is that the whole shell is metal. It doesn't have the plastic liftoff lid. The whole shell is metal. It's a tank. That's obviously a major difference in the quality of manufacturing there, of having such a hard enclosed case. But the rest of it is basically the same, as far as the base and as far as the dual rail system, the Z rail.
Yep.
So
to protect the paint once your models are done, if they're a cartoon or a comic and they're real shiny, do you hit them with a high gloss? And if they're dull, you hit them with a matte, or do you put nothing on them?
Yeah, all depending upon the finish. I have matte spray, I have semi gloss, I have satin, and I have gloss. So depending upon the finish that I'm looking for, I'll apply the appropriate top coating. But it helps to preserve the paint, especially when you're dusting the models. If you don't put a top coat on there, it becomes very hard to remove any kind of dust or any kind of stuff off the model.
I honestly think probably the only way to do that would be to rinse them off, because there's so many nooks and crannies that at some point you might just have to rinse them off and let them air dry, if that would even work real well. If you don't keep them in enclosed, glass case.
I use an ultra duster. I just dust them, one of those compressed cans, and just hit it every once in a while.
Yeah, I got my compressor in the garage, and whenever I blow out my computers or anything, I just hold the fan so I don't over rev them and I blow all the dust out. Yeah. I used to actually bring the hose in the house to clean things out, or to get in hard to get to places. And now I got a portable can I bought at AutoZone. You carry them around, and it's got a coiled hose on it. I'll take that in the garage and I'll air pressurize it. And it doesn't give you much air quick, but I use that to blow out my extruders and stuff around my printers when they get junk,
Yeah.
built up, I blow them off with that compressed air. Then I just take it back out in the garage and fill the can back up for little quick jobs. Go on to
DIY resin printer will become this. There was a guy on Thingiverse that was designing. He was printing. He was making a resin printer out of FDM. He was designing it, and he was making it super huge. And I do not know. I downloaded everything that he had done up to a certain point. But I'm wondering how much farther he got.
I had a man on my live stream a few weeks ago, about a month ago. I forget his name offhand that I had on, but he's in a Discord group where a lot of people are prototyping and designing resin printers from scratch. They're building them completely from scratch. Buying different companies' parts and making them whatever size they want. But I forget what his name is, and it sucks that I don't remember his name. I didn't, I'm very forgetful. But he was on 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, like you can buy any size screen nowadays. I mean, you go to Alibaba and they have all these different types of size curing screens. That if you have the technical know-how,
And on to the next picture here. I've done this, and I've done a Red Hulk. That's very cool.
Yeah, another one from Megs. Yeah, that was this was all FDM.
Yeah, I put that on my Etsy store, and I kind of wish I hadn't, because it's a beautiful print, very well done.
Oh, you sold it?
No, I have it on there though. No, I haven't sold anything. I've only sold one sticker. My prices are too high, and my paint skills aren't as well as they probably should be. But I haven't sold anything on Etsy. But I'll slowly keep adding to it. But yeah, that's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, this was I used at this point in time when I hadn't gotten my resin printers when I did this, and there was a filler primer from Rust-Oleum that I was using, and it did a really good job of hiding the layer lines on these prints. And this was all printed in pieces, obviously, on my enders, on my 2 Ender 3s.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Thank you.
And let's move on here.
Yep. Aquaman, that was from Gambody. I don't know who designed it. And this was also the part of this, right? No, this was also all FDM as well.
Very nice. Beautiful.
FDM. I can see the layer lines and the letters down there.
Yeah. When I take a lot of pictures, sometimes the pictures don't look so good. I have to change angles and things. And
all my pictures are taken with my iPhone, or now with my Samsung.
Looks excellent. And who's that by?
That was from the crowdfund group.
Oh, what is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. 3D Model Crowdfund over on Facebook. They got a lot of beautiful work, a lot of great designers work out of that group.
Yep. Gambody, all FDM.
Very nice.
Thank you. This was when I was experimenting with metallic inks too, before I started using All-Clad. Those are all metallic acrylics.
You were telling me about All-Clad, and I haven't bought any yet. They were fairly expensive for me, and I was going to buy them a bunch, but I heard you kind of steered away from them now. You're moving away from them.
Yeah, because All-Clads are enamels. So to clean it, you got to use some enamel thinner, which it can be a little bit toxic. So I'm using right now Createx Auto Air Colors, and it's they're more expensive for the size bottle, but the size bottle compared to the All-Clad is a small bottle. I believe it's an ounce, which could be anywhere like up to $8. With the Createx, you're getting 4 ounces for $14. So just by sheer volume, it's so much more cheaper, and it's water-based.
Are you buying off Amazon or Hobby Store, or do you just look around different places?
Coastal Airbrush. That's where I get all my Createx Auto Air Colors.
Coastal Airbrush?
Yep. And they have all sorts of different, from the Createx brand. Createx has Auto Air Colors. They have Candy 2.0. They have Wicked. And I know they have another line. I can't remember the name of it. But the Createx, they have a whole bunch of do I have it? Let me see. Createx Airbrush Colors. That's the other brand. So yeah, they have a lot of cool paints there, and being water based, I clean my airbrushes just using either the cleaner that they sell, which when I actually smelled it, smelled a lot like Windex, and it's a clear Windex. That's what it is. I got myself some Windex and clean your airbrushes just fine.
I've thinned with clear Windex, and I've used it for cleaner also.
Yeah. So that's what I'm using now is Createx Auto Air. The finishes I'm getting, especially the finish I got on the Cyclops, I was quite surprised myself. I was like, wow, this came out really good.
What type of an airbrush do you spray with and gun?
I use a Posh airbrush. I have a single action and a double action,
Okay.
and I have different size needles depending upon what I'm painting. When I'm just doing a huge part of the model, I'll put in my 5 needle. If I'm doing more detail, I'll go down to a smaller size needle. What I try to do now is I have both my airbrushes set up, and my single action is what I use for base coat coverage, and then my double action is more for detail and for shading.
And do you have a holding tank in your air compressor, or does it run all the time when you're spraying?
It's a holding tank.
Okay.
So I just turn it on, let the pressure build up, and then just start airbrushing. And then when I had the room built, I was talking to the contractor, and I was like, "Oh, look, I'm gonna be doing some painting in there." And he's like, "Oh, all right." So he was asking me, "Is the stuff toxic?" And I go, "Oh, it's water based, but I still don't want to be inside there, breathing it." So then what he did was he actually put a vent hole on one of the walls, and I got an extraction motor to suck out all the fumes, and it's wrong direction.
There we go.
To the left of me. If you a box over there with the holes on top, and I just got basically a plastic bin, cut a hole in the top of it, put the some ductwork to it, and that ductwork is running to the bottom to the extraction motor, and then that tube goes into the vent hole in the wall. And I have a flap there that once enough air pressure is applied, the flaps open, and all that gets sucked out.
So, but what about when you're painting with rattle can paint, which is an enamel paint that'll clog up your filter? You'd take that outside to spray it and bring it in?
No, I using that same. That's my paint booth. I just have a filter on the top there, and every once in a while I'm still changing out the filter, but it sucks up all that fume out there.
Okay.
I don't smell it in the room at all.
Yeah, quite often I go out back and I spray something real quick if it's cold, and then I bring it into my added-on room to let it, cure in the house. But then you can smell it throughout the house. My wife's like, "What's that?" Anyway.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, I got the contractor, and he set that up for me. It's like he did. He built all the shelving in here. I asked him, I told him what I was going to be using it for, what the primary purpose of the room. So he did an amazing job. I'm really happy with how it came out.
Yeah, let's see. Let's move on to another print here. Magneto Sanix.
The very first 3D print I ever did.
Cool.
All FDM. And I used all clad on this. It was my first experience with it, and I actually messed up the arms. I had to reprint them 3 times because I kept on messing up with the paint job. And I finally got to where it looked decent, and I was happy with it. And that was my experience with all clad, with the red part.
You typically, when you first started, were you gluing them together and painting them, taping them off, or did you always separate, paint everything, put it together, and touch up? Or what's your process?
It all depends. It all depends upon the figure. If there's an obvious seam in the design, like a detail in the suit, then I'll do the pieces separate. And especially if the color is going to continue to there, I'll do the pieces separate. I'll paint them separately, and then I'll glue them. But if the seam where the cut is, I have to do any kind of applying any putty, then I'll apply it, paint it. I try to paint as much as possible separate, and then assemble it and do any kind of touch up painting that I need to do, because I just find it's easier to work that way as opposed to trying to print this gigantic piece with all these different, his arms and his legs or whatever sticking out. So that's what I try to do.
What do you typically glue your models together with, FDM or resin? What kind of glues do you use?
It's E. Let me see if I can reach for it. Is it here? Nope. I think it's called E6000. It forms a really strong bond. Um, I tried using some regular CA glue. That didn't work too well. So I think it's called E6000. My wife, she's the one that turned me on to that. She used it for her crafting. And she has a whole, or her craft room. That's her hobby. She works with paper crafts. She does all sorts of reefs, and she just does all sorts of amazing stuff.
Yeah, I use a 2P10 with a spray activator. You can use it on wood trim or whatever. I put the glue on it and hold it together, and then it's good. But it's still like a super glue. And I found throughout the last 4 years that things will still break and they separate at that joint. And if I use something like a gloop, which I have, but usually dries up before I get around to using it, it'll melt and fuse the model together. So going forward, I need to tend to use something that will fuse the parts together rather than like super glue that eventually is going to break at that joint.
Yep, yep.
And then
That
if
was,
you glue it back together, it may not glue, and you got to scuff it up and put a little elbow grease in it.
yeah, that was my experience as well with trying to use CA glue. I mean, it seemed like it was a good enough bond. I'm looking at one model that actually I had to repair. It was actually the Mandalorian model. I had used CA glue on that, and I have it up on a shelf over here. And one morning I came in, and I found it on the floor. And sure enough, I had come the leg had come off the top of the skull, so I fixed it using the E6000.
Here's a question for you: E60,000, is that stuff 2-page? Okay.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And what brand of airbrush you had? Red Light's wondering.
Yeah, Posh.
POSH.
It's PAASCHE.
Okay. Yeah, Amazon. There's so much variety.
There are a ton of airbrushes, but always be mindful. You're gonna get what you pay for. If you see an airbrush that gives you a 3 needle and a 5 needle and it's $30, it's gonna last you very, very short. It's not gonna last you for a very long time. So it's just you get what you pay for. You don't have to spend hundreds of dollars either, but I think for a good airbrush, if you're spending somewhere like on 80 to 90 and about 125 tops, you'll get a good quality one.
And let's see. This is also, I believe, Mag's
Yes,
Shazam.
it is. Yep, yep.
Awesome.
And this was all FDM as well.
I made a big mistake when I printed that. I wanted to show off the pictures online. I glued the whole thing together, and it's like, wow, now how am I going to paint it? So
Yeah, see that's where I painted the figure, all the figures. I painted all the pieces separately. I even painted the clouds on the base separately. I painted that energy effect separately, and then I assembled it.
I did get some good advice from 3D Model Crowdfund. Tony Chambers said when he posts a lot of stuff that is glued together, he uses hot glue. He'll hot glue it together. He can take his pictures, then he can easily pull it apart to paint it.
Yeah,
So that's a
yeah,
good way to put things together if you want to just test fit them and take pictures.
yep.
Dr.
Also,
Doom.
also FDM.
Excellent.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
Who
You
was
can see
that
the
from? Remember?
see the layer line in there.
Yeah, I can see him a little bit in his cape. I don't think you can see my mouse on screen, but very beautiful.
Thank you.
Daredevil.
Sanix. This was FDM.
I have printed that. I've never painted it, and I also printed out what's her name?
Electra.
Electra. I printed out Electra that's on a posing platform like that
Mhm.
on the side of the building. That's very nice.
Thank you.
Let me catch up with chat. I'm trying to look around my microphone. Hey, Mike, red light. Never let the machines win. Yeah, I got my camera right in the way.
Thank
I
you.
used to keep my camera on top of the computer, then I look at the screen to see my guests or read anything, but then I'm not looking at the camera. So now I got like right in the middle and I got to kind of look around it. So
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, I got to get my setup. Like I said, I was talking to you before the show. I got to get the camera, microphone, but I got to start adding a lot of videos to my YouTube channel. It's very old. It's got stuff from when I was building models, the traditional plastic models. So I want to start adding some stuff there. And I've been helping out a lot of people, giving them advice with the resin printing. So I thought, I'll put everything I know how to do on there, and this way anybody can go there, and I'm happy to help anybody get started in the resin printing hobby. Nova. This was from the crowdfunding group. This was a combination of FDM and resin. The hands and arms are resin. The head is resin. Body and the legs and the base are FDM.
Wow, excellent work.
Thank you.
When you start painting, how long does it take you to paint something like that? A week or two, or how much time do you invest in painting?
I paint. I'll paint like depending upon the mood. I mean, sometimes it takes me forever to finish something. I'll get jazzed on it, and I'll be like, oh, I don't, I'm having a lot of progress, and I'll paint, and then I'll reach a point where then something else catches my eye, as far as the design file, and that one will kind of go to the side. So, but this Nova, he's a favorite character of mine from the comic books. I did this guy in 2 weeks. Because when you're doing layering, you print, your primer. Typically, you want to let it sit for 24 hours before you apply any kind of other paint. So when you're doing layering like that for shading and for color on top of color on top of color, patience is the key. I know you get into it. Oh, you want to see this finish, and you kind of touch it, and it feels dry. No, just let it sit for 24 hours at the least. Let it fully dry, but then the next coat that you put on top of it will distribute evenly. Just because it feels dry, it's still the paint is still drying underneath on the bottom layer, and the paint might interact with each other and make the texture very bumpy and not as smooth as it can be.
What do you think about using a hair dryer for distance to help speed up drying?
Well, with FDM, you gotta be careful; you'll melt your print.
Well, yeah, too much heat, but
yeah, I don't like doing that. But again, using a hair dryer, you're surface drying your paint, and if you have a heavy enough coverage, then you're just not drying the ink underneath. So I just having patience. That's the one thing I've learned. I got impatient, and thankfully with resin printing, it's easy. You can just reprint stuff.
Yeah.
And but still, it's just a hassle to have to reprint something, and then if you didn't remember what scale you shrunk it or enlarged it to, so it's just patience. I'll paint something, I'll let it sit, let it cure fully, let it dry fully, and then I'll move on.
Yeah, paint this part, and then paint this part over here, and this one over here, and
exactly,
and then come back to them.
Okay. Yeah. But then the danger is, you're being patient, and then something else catches your eye. Typical squirrel.
Do you have any other hobbies you're involved in or have been in? Anything you'd like to talk about?
Well, the hobby that I was involved in mainly with this was building regular styrene kits. There was some resin, some pre-made resin figure kits that I was doing. I still do that. I still build plastic models from time to time. Another hobby that I'm in is music. I play bass guitar.
Oh, awesome.
And I've been playing since I was 12.
Wow. Are you in a band?
Haven't been for quite some time. That's actually how I met my wife. I was in a band, and we were having a rap party because we had recorded a cassette, back in the day.
Yeah.
We thought we were rock gods, and that's how I met her, was at a party. But it's been a while. I mean, there was these three buddies that I met through the model group, Sean McClure and John Hunt. And John, he's a monster on the drums. Sean plays, he can play keyboard, play guitar. So it's been kind of a hit or miss. Those guys have been more on it than I have, as far as with the advent of the digital age, you can hook up your instrument to your computer, and one guy can do a guitar track here and a keyboard track. The other guy can do the drums, and we can all combine it as long as we're doing it all. Sean's here. As long as we all do it to the same timing, that's my deal. I have to stick to the timing, the beats per minute. So we're trying to do some stuff. I'll hook up my bass guitar over here to the computer and just get back to that. Just trying to juggle all the hobbies. You know, a little bit of time to music, a little bit of time to resin printing, a little bit of time to plastic kits, and then, but most importantly, spending time with family. So,
Are you married? Do you have kids, pets?
married, yes, happily. My wife, my beautiful wife. Two stepsons. One is Ashley. He lives in North Carolina with his wife and his kids. Timothy is the oldest. He's on the east coast of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
We have now four fur kids, and we have two dogs. Well, three dogs. My mom has a little dog, and we have a cat. So those are the kids of the house. They have freedom of the house. You know, it's like I'll have 12 inches of bed, and they have the rest of the bed. You know, my wife's on the other side of the bed. She's got 12 inches of bed.
Yeah.
Same thing with the couch. You know how it is. I've seen, you have a black lab that looks a lot like our Sasha.
Mm-hmm.
She's also a black lab. It looks like they could be sisters or related. So
Yeah, she's half black lab, half Jack Russell. I base that on how she acts and the way some of her features are. But here's a picture of her right here.
yeah, that is so much like our Sasha. Not so much white on the chest. You got a little bit, but the face is so much. It's almost identical. So you're saying a lab in Jack Russell?
Yeah.
That might be hers as well.
And then whenever the garbage man comes out front, she runs around in circles and barks back and forth and spins around in circles. Pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's our deal too. We have Sasha, you know, she's a lab mix, and Bernie's a Lhasa Apsu.
Mm-hmm.
He's his whole breed they were like bred to be like companions to the monks, and you know, like the Himalayan. They're like a Himalayan dog, and the dog doesn't bark. The only time he barks is when I have this little red remote control car that my parents gave me. That's the only time he barks, when he sees that thing. But aside from that, he's quiet. He'll growl once in a while, but
here's a project here you just posted that you're working on. If you want to talk about it, actually, let me go ahead and show the renders first.
Yeah, yes. God, this Patreon, the stuff that they're putting out is you know, I'm in a couple of Patreon groups, and they're all putting out phenomenal work. But this was the latest one that I started working on, and the likeness to Chadwick Boseman is just incredible. It's incredible, the likeness on it, and it's just the level of detail in the print. It just looks phenomenal.
How big is that there? About the size of your hand? Kind of hard to tell.
No, it's actually bigger. It's with the head and everything. Let me see if I actually got it here. Like 9.5 inches.
All right.
And I actually I approached the guy who manages the Patreon, Gabriel, and asked him what would be the possibility of having legs designed for this. To have it, you know, but the bust looks like it's quarter scale. So he said sure, and he contacted the designer. The designer gave us a price. Gave me a price. I opened it up to a bunch of other people in the Patreon if they were interested, that we could join in and all distribute and share the cost. And sure enough, a lot of people signed on, and the guy should have the legs designed probably like in a couple of weeks, and we'll be able to switch it from the bust, put it on top of the legs.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was your paint process on that, if you'd want to talk about it?
Sure. This was all resin, done on my Epax X10, and I put on a basic black primer, rattle can, cheapo black primer, and then to give it some difference in the muscles, to the straps on the body, on the muscle areas, I actually got some matte finish and kind of like dulled down the shine to give it more separation. And then on the highlight areas, I actually put some clear it's available through Vallejo, and it's a metallizer. It's a metal medium that you can add to any color to make it metallic in nature, but then you can use it by itself to accentuate highlights. And then I use that on the highlight areas. And then for the veining, it was actually Gabriel's idea, and he was like, well, how about on the veins of the suit you use like the kind of color that they had in the movie? And I was like, okay. And then I started using a metallic paint from Createx on that, mixed a little bit of blue metallic paint, and so far so good. So I gotta do some of this silver chrome highlight details, the white for the eyes, and then do some more work on the base. So
That'd be awesome if you get your YouTube channel up and running. Just have a camera sitting there, and while you're working or doing whatever, either tape it and throw it up, or go live and just just keep working. People can learn so much just by your little tips and tricks here and there while you're painting. People would love it, and I'm sure you get a lot of subscribers. And I'd be more than happy to post it over on my Facebook group and help promote you if you wanted to do that.
yeah, that's the plan. Is to put a lot of content on there for resin printing and for painting and finishing techniques. People are always asking me. They'll message me, "Hey, how did you get this? How did you do that?" And it'd be nice to just say, "We're here. Here's a video. Check it out, and you can follow it step by step as you're doing it yourself." So that's the plan.
Do you have any teasers of any upcoming projects you'd like to talk about, things you might be working on?
Sure. Right now, the Cyclops, like I think when you showed that, that's part of a huge diorama. It's going to have a bunch of different X-Men characters. The next one I'm working on is with two of them, is Storm and Jean Grey, and this is a part of the Storm diorama. It's these clear pieces that I did, and I painted them out using some clear paint and a couple of coats, because the one layer by itself just did not give the desired color, and I have plans to putting some lights on the inside.
Uh-huh.
So I finally settled on the color. Some of my modeling buddies on the Hobby Link International group, I was showing them different different samples of. I put in a white LED and it looked okay. And then I put in a red, and I put in the yellow, and I forgot who it was. I think it was Buckman, who was like, "Why don't you put a flickering red and yellow together?" And when I did that, wow, the finish I got.
Where can people currently find you at? You're on Facebook, you're on Instagram.
Yeah, on Instagram, the link will be on this live feed, and then on Facebook, it's just Omar Baez, and you're more than happy to friend me, and I'm more than happy to help out anybody who has any questions as far as for painting and finishing, even with resin printing. So if I find, I'm pretty sure you get a ton of questions for FDM printing and for printing what you've been doing for such a.
Yeah, I get PMs a lot, or people message me, or in my videos, whichever. But yeah, and
Yeah.
I below in the description, everybody, I've got a link to where you can find Omar on Instagram, and of course he's all over Facebook.
Yeah, and all the different groups, and once I got my YouTube channel up and up to date, I'm going to create a separate Facebook page, specifically dealing just with all the resin prints and all the finishing. So this way, they'll just go there, and it'll only be that. There won't be any other content. It'll only be resin printing, and all links to all my YouTube channel, all the YouTube videos with all the different steps and processes. So I'm going to try to make it.
A few weeks ago, you dropped into one of my hangouts, because either once or twice a week, anywhere from 2 to 4 hours, I do random hangouts where anybody can just drop in and chat, and we just talk about hobby type stuff related. And if you guys want to go watch that, Omar was on that. And I'll probably be doing one another 3 or 4 days. I got a lot of little projects here and there I'm working on, so it takes a lot of time. Henry Lynn, look forward to meeting you.
Yeah, and actually another thing that I'm working on, and I know this is going to be a lot of people have already asked me about this. I put a teaser picture of it on the sci-fi group. Another awesome, amazing thing about 3D printing is that all the it's this.
You froze.
All the these are nacelles for a Star Trek ship that was before they did Star Trek the motion picture. There was actually talk that they were going to do a TV show again.
Mm-hmm.
They were going to bring back the original crew, but there was such a huge amount of interest. I think that's how the story goes, is that they decided to make it a movie. So this is going to be a nacelle, and they had a specific design for what the TV Enterprise was going to look like.
Uh-huh.
And there's really been no model kits for it. There was a resin kit that came out from a company one time, but it was a small little 1/1000 scale.
Mm-hmm.
And another amazing thing about 3D printing is that lots of times, a lot of the sci-fi model builders, they want a specific kit. They want a specific ship. And all the popular model companies like Round 2 and Polar Lights, they'll only do the ultra popular things. They won't do everything. And with the advent of resin printing now, what people have been able to do is print the ships that they've always wanted to have, the model kits they've always wanted to have. And what I'm doing with that, and with this, I'm actually getting a pre-existing enterprise kit from the original TV show. I'm gonna modify it to be that never before used proposed enterprise design. They called it the Phase 2 Enterprise, and it's like, it's always been teased about, people, there are certain people who built models for it, who scratch built it, but it's never been a model kit of it other than the small 1/1000 resin kit that was done once. So just for my own purposes, I found the design files, I cut it up, and I printed them out. So now I'm going to start working on adding those nacelles to the model kit. So that's just a great thing about 3D printing, is that you don't have to wait for these big companies to make the kits that you've always wanted to have. If you find the design files, you can just do it yourself.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. 6:05 right now, my time. So we've been on for a little over an hour. Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about or mention, or?
Nope. And like I said, I'll be working on my YouTube channel, and everyone's they're more than welcome to reach out to me to have any questions, and if they want to pick up any tips or tricks as far as for painting, or if they're interested in getting into resin printing. I'm happy to share all, my experiences with it. I don't have every single resin printer, but they're all, at this point in time, they're all basically the same type of technology. You're just looking at different varying levels of support, availability for parts. If their companies are based here in the U.S., or if you have to wait for parts to come from overseas, so then you just have to make an informed decision about that. Sir, I want to get something I can afford, and it's a decent level of support, but but they're all basically the same. It's a Z-rail that goes up and down into a resin vat, and they're all going to the removable plastic hood. Elegoo was the very first one with the Mars that did that. So EPAC with their E10, they have that, and Cubic with the Mono X, they have the removable top. So
I had 3D Printing Pro on a few weeks ago, and in a lot of his videos, he doesn't care for the plastic top. I have no problem with it. I think it looks nice.
Yeah, it looks sharp. You definitely have to have a place to put it when you're removing when you remove it for your print. You have to set it on the floor, or it is a big piece to set to the side. So that's why I'm kind of spoiled with my two photons and my EPAC X10. The door's attached on hinges. It goes up. I don't have to worry about having any kind of surface space for that.
Yeah, when I pull off mine on my Elegoo, I just take it and I flip it upside down. I set it whatever's around me. So set it whatever.
Yeah, here, what Bud just mentioned about the Elegoo Jupiter, they put a picture of that back in August on their.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's really big.
Yeah, so it was just natural. They had done the Mars and then the Saturn. So okay, the next biggest planet in our solar system, the biggest one is Jupiter, and they put a picture of it. That one is not going to be a removable top. It looks like it has a door.
Hey, DeWitt Tim, you get to hear me say goodbye. Yeah, DeWitt Tim over in Canada, he's got a great channel. Let's see. Well, anyway, yeah, thank you very much for being on, Omar. It was really nice meeting you, and I wish you the best of luck. And any future posts, like I say, you always post them on my group, and I'm on your my Facebook page, and I'll get your YouTube channel up and going, and I'll do my best to help promote it and get you more subscribers.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Stick around for just a minute. I'll be right with you.
All right, you bet.
Well, we're going to call that a wrap, guys. It's been a little over an hour, and Omar was an awesome guest to have on. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming by. Please hit the like button. I'd appreciate it. Subscribe, ring the bell to be notified next time I go live. If you want some cool discounts from ZYLTECH, TH3D, I've got links below in the description. And if you'd like to help out my channel, there's links below in the description. You can do that if you'd like to. And I'm not sure who I'm going to have on next week. I got a few people I've contacted on Facebook and Twitter. And I'll be doing a Hangout stream in probably 3 or 4 days. I'm not really sure when yet. But thank you very much. Everybody have a great day and happy printing as always.